The winds of Kepler 742b howled across the crystalline plains as Dr. Samira Hassan adjusted her atmospheric suit settings. The planet's purple sun cast strange shadows through the translucent rock formations that surrounded her research site. 6 months of excavation had yielded little more than unusual mineral samples until today. "Professor Patel, you need to see this," Samira called into her comm unit, her dark eyes fixed on the readings from her scanner. The device's holographic display pulsed with unprecedented energy signatures emanating from what they had previously dismissed as another crystal deposit. "On my way," Professor Rajesh Patel's voice crackled through the comm, "try not to make any more groundbreaking discoveries before I get there." Samira smiled despite her growing excitement. Her mentor's dry humor had helped keep the team's spirits up during the long months of methodical research. But this finding could change everything they thought they knew about extinct alien civilizations. The scanner's readings grew stronger as she approached the formation. Unlike the other crystals that dotted the landscape, this one had a faint internal glow that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her steps. Through the translucent surface, she could make out a humanoid shape. Professor Patel arrived with Dr. Nikolai Volkov, their team's xenobiologist, in tow. Both men's eyes widened as they took in the sight before them. "It's impossible," Nikolai muttered, pulling out his own scanner. "These readings suggest cellular activity. If I didn't know better, I'd say whatever's in there is alive." Samira pressed her gloved hand against the crystal's surface. The material felt warm despite the planet's frigid temperature. "Look at the pattern of the formation," she said. "These aren't natural growth lines. Someone put her here." "Her?" Professor Patel raised an eyebrow. "Just a feeling," Samira replied, unable to explain the certainty she felt. The figure within the crystal was curled in what appeared to be a fetal position, its features indistinct but somehow feminine. Their discovery quickly attracted attention from the Interstellar Scientific Council. Within days, the research site was swarming with specialists from various fields. Dr. James Wong, the leading expert in crystalline structures, confirmed what Samira had suspected: the formation was artificial. "The molecular structure is unlike anything we've encountered," he explained during one of their daily briefings. "It's as if someone manipulated matter at its most fundamental level to create this prison. Or perhaps preservation chamber would be more accurate." Samira spent countless hours studying the entity within the crystal. She began to notice subtle changes. The glow would intensify when she worked nearby, and sometimes her instruments detected faint electromagnetic pulses that almost seemed like attempts at communication. "We need to consider the possibility of attempting contact," she argued during a heated debate with the Research Council. "These readings suggest increasing activity. Whoever, is in there, they're responding to our presence. Or it could be a defense mechanism," Dr. Diana Martinez, the head of Xenosecurity, countered. "We have no idea why this being was imprisoned. It could be dangerous." The debate might have continued indefinitely if not for what happened next. During one of her late-night observation sessions, Samira noticed tiny fractures appearing in the crystal's surface. The internal glow had intensified to a brilliant purple, and her instruments were detecting unprecedented levels of energy. "All personnel, clear the area." Dr. Martinez's voice boomed through the facility's speakers. "This is not a drill. I repeat, clear the area immediately." But Samira couldn't move. The fractures were spreading, forming intricate patterns that resembled writing in a language she'd never seen. The being within the crystal shifted, and for the first time, Samira saw its eyes open, brilliant, opalescent orbs that fixed directly on her. A voice echoed in her mind, neither male nor female, but somehow both and neither. Finally, it said, "Someone who can hear me." The crystal exploded outward in a shower of brilliant fragments that hung suspended in the air like frozen raindrops. In the center, the figure unfurled from its fetal position, its skin a shifting pattern of crystalline facets that caught and reflected the purple sunlight. Security forces burst into the chamber, weapons drawn, but stopped short at the extraordinary sight. The being, clearly female in form now, stood floating several inches above the ground. Her eyes, still fixed on Samira, held millennia of knowledge and something else, hope. "I am Lyra," the being spoke aloud this time, her voice carrying harmonic overtones that made the remaining crystal formations resonate. "I have waited eons for ones who could understand, who could free me from my prison. But now that freedom has come, I must warn you, they are returning." Samira stepped forward despite Dr. Martinez's shouted warning. "Who is returning?" Lyra's crystalline features shifted into what might have been a smile. "The ones who imprisoned me. The ones who feared what humanity would become. They locked away the knowledge I was meant to share, but they could not erase what I am." She extended a hand toward Samira. "Will you help me prepare your people for what comes next?" The interstellar defense fleet arrived within hours of Lyra's emergence. Captain Marcus Blackwood stood on the bridge of the IDF Hyperion, watching the purple sun of Kepler 742b cast its ethereal light across his ship's hull. The reports from the research facility had seemed impossible until he saw the footage himself. "Status report," he commanded, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through the bridge. Lieutenant Olivia Rodriguez, his second in command, pulled up a holographic display. "The entity remains in the research facility with Dr. Hassan. All attempts to establish a quarantine perimeter have failed, the crystalline resonance patterns disrupt our containment fields." Marcus studied the live feed from the facility. Dr. Samira Hassan sat cross-legged on the floor, deep in conversation with the crystalline being called Lyra. Their interaction seemed peaceful enough, but 20 years of military service had taught him that appearances could be deceiving. "What are they discussing?" he asked. "Unknown, sir," Rodriguez replied. "Our audio equipment malfunctions whenever we try to record their conversations. Dr. Hassan reports that Lyra is sharing historical information about an ancient conflict, but the details are unclear." Marcus made his decision. "Prepare my shuttle. I'm going down there." The research facility had transformed in the days since Lyra's emergence. Crystal formations had begun growing along the walls, creating patterns that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. The air itself felt charged with potential. Dr. Hassan met him at the entrance, her dark eyes bright with excitement. "Captain Blackwood, thank you for coming personally. Lyra has been asking about you." "About me?" Marcus frowned. "How does she even know who I am?" "She knows many things," Samira said cryptically, leading him through the crystalline corridors. "Time doesn't flow quite the same way for her as it does for us." They found Lyra in what had once been the main research lab. The crystalline being floated near the ceiling, her form seeming to merge with the growing formations around her. As Marcus entered, she descended to eye level. "Captain Marcus Blackwood," she said, her voice carrying those strange harmonics that made his teeth ache. "The soldier who dreams of peace." Marcus kept his expression neutral. "You seem to have me at a disadvantage." "I see possibilities," Lyra explained, gesturing with a crystalline hand. The walls around them shifted, showing fleeting images of battles, of stars dying and being born, of humanity spreading across the galaxy. Some fixed, some fluid. "Your arrival here was one of the fixed points." "Why?" Marcus asked, fighting the urge to reach for his weapon as the images grew more intense. "Because you understand sacrifice," Lyra said softly. "You know that sometimes to save what matters most, you must risk everything." Before Marcus could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice crackled over his calm, "Captain, we're detecting multiple ships entering the system. Configuration unknown, but they're big." The images on the walls shifted, showing massive vessels of crystalline construction similar to Lyra's own form. Her expression turned grave. "They come sooner than expected. The Guardians were supposed to sleep for another century." "The ones who imprisoned you?" Samira asked, moving closer to Lyra. "Yes. They believe they protect the galaxy by controlling the flow of knowledge, of technology. Lyra's form pulsed with inner light. They feared what humanity would become with access to the truths I safeguard. Marcus watched as more ships appeared on the tactical display. And what truths are those? The nature of reality itself, Lyra replied. The ability to manipulate matter, energy, even time. Humanity's potential for growth is unlimited, but the Guardians believe such power must be contained. The facility trembled as the first shots were fired in orbit. Marcus's comm unit erupted with tactical chatter, the Hyperion and its escort ships engaging the unknown vessels. Captain, Rodriguez reported, their weapons, they're not just destroying our ships, they're crystallizing them. Crews are being preserved like I was, Lyra finished. They will do the same to this facility, to everyone here. Unless what? Marcus demanded. Lyra turned to Samira. The connection we've formed, the knowledge I've shared, it can be used to stop them. But the price? She hesitated. Tell me, Samira said firmly. To channel such power would fundamentally change you. You would become like me, neither fully human nor fully crystalline. The transformation cannot be undone. Marcus stepped forward. There has to be another way. The Guardians cannot be defeated by conventional means, Lyra explained. They exist partially outside normal spacetime. Only one who shares their nature can truly fight them. Another explosion rocked the facility. Through the windows, Marcus watched as one of his escort ships transformed into crystal, its crew frozen in eternal stasis. Samira straightened her shoulders. I'll do it. Dr. Hassan, Marcus protested, you don't have to. Yes, I do, she interrupted. I've seen what Lyra knows, what humanity could become. We can't let them take that away. Lyra nodded solemnly. The process will be painful, but I will guide you through it. As Marcus watched, Lyra's form began to dissolve into pure energy, swirling around Samira like a crystalline tornado. The xenoarchaeologist's screams echoed through the facility as her body began to change, her skin taking on the same shifting patterns as Lyra's. Get everyone out, Marcus ordered into his comm, full evacuation, now. The transformation seemed to last both an instant and an eternity. When it was done, two crystalline beings stood where Samira and Lyra had been, their forms similar but distinct, like variations on a theme. Samira opened her eyes, now the same opalescent shade as Lyra's. When she spoke, her voice carried the same harmonic overtones. I understand now. Everything. Above Kepler 742b, the battle had reached a stalemate. The Guardian vessels hung in space like crystalline sculptures, their weapons holding the human fleet in a deadly embrace. Inside the research facility, Marcus watched as Samira, or what Samira had become, learned to control her new form. The crystalline structure allows for manipulation of fundamental forces, she explained, her voice still carrying those strange harmonics. Her hand passed through a solid wall as if it were water. Reality becomes negotiable. Lyra moved beside her, both beings casting prismatic light across the chamber. The Guardians believe such power must be contained, controlled. They fear what free will might do with it. A new voice cut through their discussion. And they're right to fear it. General Victor Reed strode into the chamber, flanked by heavily armed troops. His weathered face showed no sign of awe at the crystalline beings before him. Dr. Hassan, by authority of the Interstellar Defense Council, you are hereby ordered to submit to containment and study. Marcus stepped between them. General Reed, with all due respect, Dr. Hassan is still a civilian scientist under my protection. Look at her, Captain, Reed gestured dismissively. She's not even human anymore. This is exactly why we have protocols for first contact scenarios. Samira's new form flickered with internal light. I'm still me, General. I've just expanded. Expanded into what? Reed demanded. An uncontrolled threat. A weapon waiting to be unleashed. The Council has reviewed the data. This gift of power, it could revolutionize our military capabilities. Or destroy everything, Lyra interjected. The Guardians aren't wrong about the dangers. They're only wrong about the solution. Knowledge cannot be imprisoned forever. The facility's sensors blared another warning. The Guardian ships were moving into an attack formation, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the purple sunlight in dazzling patterns. They're preparing a mass stasis field, Lyra announced. They'll trap the entire planet in crystal, preserving it until they deem humanity ready for advancement. Reed smiled coldly. Then we have no choice. Dr. Hassan, you will demonstrate these abilities. Show us how to defend ourselves. You don't understand, Samira's voice resonated through the chamber, causing the growing crystal formations to vibrate. This power isn't about weapons or defense. It's about understanding the fundamental nature of existence. Marcus watched as she raised her hand, creating a miniature galaxy of crystalline light. Stars formed and died, planets spun through their orbits, all in perfect harmony. The Guardians believe they protect the galaxy by controlling access to this knowledge, she continued. But they're preserving stagnation, not peace. Reed's troops raised their weapons. This is your final warning, Doctor. Comply or... The general's voice cut off as his body began to crystallize. Samira stood with her arm extended, her expression sorrowful but determined. I'm sorry, she said. But I can't let you make the same mistake the Guardians did. The crystallization spread through Reed's troops, freezing them in poses of surprise and alarm. Unlike the Guardian's stasis field, however, this transformation seemed temporary. After a moment, the crystal began to fade, leaving the soldiers unconscious but unharmed. You could have killed them, Marcus observed. That's exactly what the Guardians would expect, Lyra said. Violence begetting violence, power corrupting absolutely. But Samira proves there's another way. The facility shook as the first waves of the Guardian stasis field reached the atmosphere. Through the windows, they could see the sky beginning to crystallize, forming patterns similar to those that had imprisoned Lyra. How do we stop this? Marcus asked, watching as his ship in orbit began to sparkle with the first signs of crystallization. Samira and Lyra exchanged glances. We don't stop it, Samira said. We redirect it. The Guardians believe they're preserving the galaxy from chaos, but they've become trapped in their own rigid patterns. Their power flows in only one direction, Lyra added. But we can show them another path. Together, the two crystalline beings began to glow, their forms seeming to merge with the growing crystal structures around them. Marcus felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself was becoming fluid, possibilities flowing like water through his mind. What's happening? He managed to ask. We're not fighting the stasis field, Samira's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. We're transforming it. Not into a prison, but into a bridge. The crystallization spreading across the sky began to change, forming intricate patterns that seemed to pulse with life. Through these patterns, Marcus could see other worlds, other times, the vast tapestry of existence that the Guardians had tried to control. They wanted to preserve knowledge until they deemed others worthy. Lyra's voice joined Samira's in the crystalline chorus. But worthiness isn't granted, it's earned through understanding, through choice. The crystalline network spread across Kepler 742b's atmosphere like a living web, each node pulsing with possibilities. Through it, Marcus could see the Guardian vessels caught in their own stasis field, their rigid patterns beginning to shift and change. They're trying to communicate, Samira's voice echoed through the crystal lattice. Her form had become almost completely energy now, intertwined with Lyra's as they maintained the transformation. For the first time in millennia, they're asking questions instead of imposing answers. The unconscious forms of General Reed and his soldiers began to stir. Marcus moved to intercept them, but Samira's voice stopped him. Let them see. They need to understand. Reed stood shakily, his eyes widening as he took in the transformed facility. The walls had become transparent, showing the cosmic dance of energy and matter that Samira and Lyra were orchestrating. What is this? This is what the Guardians feared, Lyra explained, her voice gentle. Not destruction, but transformation. The ability to see beyond the boundaries they created. Through the crystalline network, images began to flow. Marcus saw ancient civilizations rising and falling, saw the Guardians' first attempts to control the flow of knowledge, saw countless species frozen in crystal, preserved but never truly living. We all thought it was about power, Samira's voice carried a note of wonder. The Guardians, humans, everyone. But it was never about power. It was about understanding. The largest Guardian vessel moved closer to the planet, its crystalline surface resonating with the transformed stasis field. A new voice joined the harmony, ancient and multifaceted. We sought to prevent chaos, the Guardian consciousness echoed through the network. To preserve order until the younger races were ready. But chaos and order are part of the same dance, Lyra responded. You cannot have one without the other. Your preservation became stagnation. Marcus watched as Reed's face shifted from fear to fascination. The general stepped forward, reaching out to touch one of the crystal formations. All this time, we were preparing for war. But this is beyond weapons or defenses. The knowledge cannot be contained, Samira's energy form pulsed. But it can be shared, understood, integrated. The Guardians tried to protect the galaxy by controlling access to these truths. We're showing them, and ourselves, that true protection comes from understanding. The crystalline network began to pulse with new patterns as the Guardian ships joined the resonance. Their rigid structures became fluid, merging with the transformed stasis field. Through their combined consciousness, Marcus could feel the shift in their ancient perspective. For eons, we watched younger species discover these truths, the Guardian voice resonated. We saw them destroy themselves, twist reality, break the very fabric of existence. We thought preservation was the answer. And now? Marcus asked, surprising himself by joining the crystalline dialogue. Now we see another way, the voice replied. The human capacity for adaptation, for understanding through change, it is unlike anything we have encountered. Samira's consciousness brushed against Marcus's mind. This is why they imprisoned Lyra. She saw this potential in humanity, saw that we could bridge the gap between preservation and progress. The facility filled with shifting light as the transformation reached its peak. The Guardian ships, once weapons of containment, became part of the crystalline network. Their ancient knowledge began to flow freely, not as imposed truth but as offered wisdom. General Reed stood transfixed, watching as mathematical equations and scientific principles far beyond current human understanding danced through the crystal lattice. This could advance our civilization by centuries. Or destroy it, Lyra cautioned. Knowledge without wisdom is as dangerous as the Guardians feared. That's why we're not simply releasing all these truths at once. Instead, Samira added, her form beginning to solidify again, we're creating a bridge. A way for humans and Guardians to learn from each other, to grow together. The crystalline network stabilized, its patterns settling into a sustainable rhythm. Through it, Marcus could still see glimpses of other worlds, other possibilities, but now they seemed less overwhelming, more like pages in a vast cosmic library waiting to be read. The choice was never between knowledge and ignorance, Lyra explained as her form also regained definition. It was between forced stagnation and guided growth. The Guardians chose one path. Today, we've opened another. The days following the transformation were filled with unprecedented cooperation between humans and Guardians. The crystalline network became a living archive, a bridge between ancient wisdom and human innovation. In the research facility, now expanded and transformed, Samira worked to understand her new existence while helping others navigate the flow of knowledge. The patterns are stabilizing, she explained to Marcus during one of their daily meetings. Her crystalline form had settled into a more humanoid appearance, though she still glowed with inner light. The Guardians are learning to share knowledge rather than impose it, and humans are learning to integrate it responsibly. Marcus watched a group of scientists working with a Guardian consciousness, their minds linked through the crystal network as they explored principles of quantum mechanics that would have been incomprehensible weeks ago. "Any regrets about your transformation?" "Sometimes," Samira admitted, her form shimming with emotion. "I miss simple things, the taste of coffee, the feeling of rain on skin. But this existence, it's like seeing colors I never knew existed." General Reed, who had become an unexpected advocate for cooperation with the Guardians, entered the chamber. His initial fear had transformed into cautious enthusiasm. "The Council has approved the establishment of the first Knowledge Integration Center. They want you both to oversee it." "Both?" Lyra materialized beside them, her presence causing the nearby crystals to resonate. "You and Dr. Hassan," Reed confirmed. "Your understanding of both human nature and Guardian knowledge makes you ideal bridges between our civilizations." The crystalline network pulsed with new information, more Guardian ships arriving, not as conquerors but as teachers, their ancient knowledge finally finding purpose in sharing rather than preserving. "We were wrong," a Guardian consciousness echoed through the chamber. "For millennia, we sought to protect the galaxy by controlling knowledge. We never considered that protection could come through understanding." Samira moved through the chamber, her crystalline form interacting with the network in ways that still amazed Marcus. The key was finding balance. The Guardians feared chaos, humans feared stagnation. Together, we're learning there's a path between. The facility had become a symbol of this new balance. Crystal formations grew alongside human technology, each enhancing the other. Scientists worked with Guardian consciousnesses to unlock mysteries of the universe, while safeguards developed by both species ensured the knowledge was handled responsibly. "There will be challenges," Lyra cautioned. "Some will want to use this knowledge for power, others will fear it entirely." "That's why we need to proceed carefully," Marcus agreed. "Revolution without wisdom is just another form of chaos." Through the crystalline network, they could see the changes already spreading across human space. The rigid patterns of Guardian preservation were giving way to something new, a dynamic equilibrium between progress and stability. "You know," Samira said, creating a small galaxy of light between her hands, "when I first found Lyra in that crystal prison, I thought I was discovering history. Instead, we were creating the future. The purple sun of Kepler 742b set on a transformed world." The research facility, once a simple outpost, had become the first of many bridges between ancient wisdom and human potential. The crystalline network stretched across the planet's atmosphere, a testament to what was possible when preservation met progress. "What happens now?" Marcus asked, watching as another Guardian ship arrived in orbit. Samira and Lyra exchanged glances, their crystalline forms resonating in harmony. "Now," Samira said, "we learn. We grow. We find new questions for all these ancient answers. And most importantly," Lyra added, "we do it together." The facility hummed with possibility as humans and Guardians continued their work, exploring the vast library of knowledge they now shared. In her crystalline form, Samira felt the pulse of countless futures unfolding. The prison of preservation had become a gateway to understanding, and through it, both humanity and the Guardians were finding their way to something greater than either had imagined alone.